My name is Andrew Appleburry, and I am running for Justice of the Peace at Precinct 1. I said my biggest thing is that no one is above the law. That is the way I look at it. It does not matter what you have in front of your name, behind your name. It doesn't matter what title you have. If you break the law, you will be held accountable. Research is the biggest thing. Every case is going to be different. You, as a Justice of the Peace, that is the people's court. You will receive a fair and just ruling on your case. Communication is a big, transparency is big, and we have to have that in our court system nowadays. It'll be different. So you look at a case not with blinders on like a horse that's pulling a cart. You look at it and you go, okay, this might not be something that I've seen. I need to research this and see exactly how it's going to work and how it needs to be taken care of. What I would do as a JP is communication is the biggest key. With my military experience, I think that I'd be able to hit the ground running with the information that would be given to me for as far as civil suits and different other stuff like that. It does not matter. I want to be that Justice of the Peace that you can speak to. I would be able to continue with what Judge McBroom has done for the JP Court for Precinct 1.
A-post floors and granite countertops are your source for all things granite, marble, quartz, soapstone, travertine, hardwoods, and more. A-post floors and granite countertops is a multiple-year winner of the Cleveland Times Review Best of the Best, as well as their prestigious Reader's Choice Award. A-post floors and granite countertops follows a tradition of A-post family of businesses founded by Fernando Rodriguez, where quality, customer service, and a commitment to improving the community come together. A-post floors and granite countertops is located at 4740 East Highway 67 in Alvarado. A-post floors and granite countertops offers design, fabrication, and installation for both residential and commercial installations. They can be reached via phone at 817-645-0460. Again, that is 817-645-0460. A-post floors and granite countertops, your source for all things granite, marble, quartz, soapstone, travertine hardwoods, and more. Check them out. Welcome to the Texas Transparency Project, and we are doing another interview for the primary season as we roll into the spring here, and I hope everybody had a happy new year. And we want to remind everybody what Texas Transparency Project is and what our role is in here in Johnson County. Our purpose is to help citizens evaluate candidates and public issues objectively. We focus on how authority will be exercised, how decisions affect your daily lives, whether the person seeking office or the ballot measures are effective and going to benefit the greater Johnson County, and whether those seeking office or in office are using the power that you have trusted them with through the voting process responsibly. Transparency lets the public see how power is used. Accountability follows when voters use the visibility wisely. Public office should never be awarded for being well-known, well-liked, and well-connected. Popularity is not competence. Practical test that we should give everybody, every candidate, anybody that's seeking your office. If you need brain surgery, friendship doesn't matter. Ability, competency, and judgment matters on who's sticking those tools in your head to fix it. If you're having a heart attack, shared interests, unrelated involvement in popular or like-minded endeavors do nothing to solve the problem of your crisis, but ability, competency, and judgment does. Public office is no different. We must evaluate and elect officials on the right way, or we may fall victim to poor, self-serving representation. Texas Transparency Project does not tell you who to vote for. It helps you decide who is most capable of representing the communities. Never forget, Transparency perpetuates accountability. Today's episode, we're going to focus on Justice of the Peace Court, specifically Johnson County Precinct 1. This is often the most accessible court for everyday residents, yet not anywhere near as well known as the other courts. It commonly involves real life issues, evictions, landlord-tenant disputes, small civil disputes up to $20,000, fine-only Class C misdemeanor cases, like many traffic issues, magistrate functions early in the criminal process allowed by law, truancy cases, and other sort of housekeeping things that courts need to manage on a day-to-day basis. Our goal today is to understand more about this court and learn about who wants to earn your trust for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, how the court operates, how discretion can be used, and what the candidate will do to make the court fair, understandable, and consistent. So let's begin with introducing today's guest. So today we're going to be joined by Andrew Appleburry. Mr. Appleburry is looking to earn your vote to replace Judge Ronnie McBroom. Judge McBroom has chosen not to seek re-election, and he leaves big shoes to fill. He was recently honored at the Johnson County Commissioner's Court for his years of service. Mr. Appleby, he's looking to keep justice simple, clear, and fair. Welcome to Texas Transparency Project. We had a new year. How was your Christmas and New Year?
Christmas was great. Thank you for having me on the program. I greatly appreciate it. Christmas was great. Me and my wife got a chance to go see the grandbabies and had a wonderful time doing that. New Year's, I was working in the hospital New Year's Day. Didn't do too much for New Year's Eve because I had to be at the hospital at 6:45. So kind of just stayed in. I was actually in Tyler. I have a contract out there. So stayed in, got some rest, and went to the hospital and worked on New Year's Day. So
speaking of the hospital, that brings us to your background. Tell us a little bit about your background. You're a veteran and
Yes, sir.
You work in the medical field. So give us a little bit about your background, which led you up to the point of deciding to run for office.
Oh, my background is I was in the United States Army for 12 years. I was over in Iraq from 2004, 2005. I was there for the cleanup after the initial push. So after I got done with the military, I had different odd jobs, moved here to Johnson County. So got into volunteer firefighting, and then I've been a respiratory therapist for going on almost 10 years now. I graduated in 2016, and March of this year will be 10 years.
And so respiratory therapists, veterans, respiratory therapists now looking to oversee a court. What is your why for your seeking office for such a unique position such as Justice of the Peace?
Well, back in 2012, I actually fought for custody of my two younger children. It was a very long and drawn out court case, and it was done in Hill County. We had a traveling judge that was in Hill County at the time, and something happened that doesn't happen a lot here in the state of Texas. I actually was granted custody of my children. And when that happened, that made a huge difference in my life. I had said before, no, I'm not going to go to college. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to do odd jobs and everything else like that. But when I got custody of my kids, I told them that education was important. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, how can I tell my kids that education is important if I don't have one? I was given this great opportunity by the judge in Hill County to be able to mold my children to better citizens. And I took it and ran with it. I got an associate's degree in respiratory, bachelor's degree. It also made me want to serve my community as a firefighter and EMT, which I did here in Johnson County. And that's the biggest reason. If I can be that one person that changes that one person's life for them to be a better person, that is what I want to be able to do.
Well, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for serving as a first responder too. So that's very admirable. And we want to wish you luck in your election.
Thank you, sir.
As we go through. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about the specifics of what JPs do and start getting into, how you would approach that role, if you're blessed to be elected. So in regards to understanding the job, in your own words, what does a justice of the peace actually do as a data as involving their day-to-day task? What encompasses, generally speaking, the role of a justice of the peace?
Well, the role of the justice of the peace in the county which it's in, they take care of Class C misdemeanors, which are usually your tickets, speeding tickets. Precinct 1 would be any tickets that might happen at the state park. You fishing without a fishing license, game warden gives you a ticket, you go to the JP. They also do civil, like you were saying earlier, civil cases up to $20,000. They also do evictions. Another thing they also do is occupational driver's licenses for people that have lost their license. They'll come before the justice of the peace, and they will either get an occupational driver's license granted to them or not, saying they can drive from a certain area from home to work and work and home, stuff like that. They also act as a magistrate for the county. I believe here they do it once a week. So they set the bail for the people that are arrested. They also do search warrants and arrest warrants. So,
Well, and I think one of the things I think just the piece is really good at, it really takes a burden off the courts that have a lot more in-depth cases that take a lot of time. The legal system's overburdened to begin with, right across the day. And being able to just clean a lot of that workload and share that workload into other courts is really good. It's they're not hearing felonies, they're not hearing serious misdemeanors, not putting people in jail per se. Is it fair to say that?
No, it is fair to say that, and I do like to say the most. Well, the best thing about the JP court is that, like you said, it does free up the district courts and everything else like that for, lack of a better word, a lesser offense. So you take you get a speeding ticket. If it had to go to the district court and they were bogged down, it might take 2 to 3 months for you to get your speeding ticket taken care of. As with going to the JP court, it might only take 2 weeks. So the JP court is very, very helpful for residents who want to get a fair and unbiased ruling on what they have. And also it can be done quickly to where it's not taking 3, 4, 6, 8 months down the road to get it done. It can get done in a lot lesser time.
And also the educational requirements for justice of the peace are not near as intensive as some of the larger courts. You don't need to be a lawyer,
Correct,
and anything like that. So that kind of leads us to how would somebody who's not properly trained, when I say properly trained, that's a bad term, but doesn't have a legal degree, a legal background, how would you go about using discretion and making decisions that are just and steady from case to case without that formal education? How would a Andrew Appleburry term look like when you had to make some of those decisions like that?
The biggest thing that I'm going to have to say is research. As a respiratory therapist, I do research all the time with new medications coming out, also new ways to take care of your patients when they're on a ventilator. So research is the biggest thing. Every case is going to be different. In some aspect, the case is going to be different. So you look at a case not with blinders on like a horse that's pulling a cart. You look at it and you go, okay, this might not be something that I've seen. I need to research this and see exactly how it's going to work and how it needs to be taken care of. So research, I would have to say, is the biggest factor, being able to find the information that you need in order to be able to rule on a case efficiently, effectively, and also ruling on it in a fair and just way.
Another thing that is kind of a big issue in society today, whether it be city councils, county commissioners, court, state level, just politics in general. And it's kind of weird, politics, with the court, but it is an elected position. You do put a party behind your name. And transparency and accountability is one of the biggest things going on in government, generally speaking, right now. Just very public at the federal level. What they're exposing with some of the Somali daycares,
Yes.
massive types of fraud and abuse, and this comes down to a transparency and accountability issue. What should the public be able to easily see and understand? And how would you open up kind of the doors to make sure the public was aware of how you were running the court and how you approached your decision-making process?
Well, the biggest thing is when it comes to it is transparency is something that you have to have. I mean, that's just automatically, that's just the way it is. So, letting people know that you, as a justice of the peace, that is the people's court. You will receive a fair and just ruling on your case. And the biggest way for people to understand that is it's almost like advertising. They always say in advertising, the biggest and the best advertising is word of mouth. So if I have someone come into my court, if I'm elected and I say they got a speeding ticket, okay? And I make sure that I do my due diligence with that speeding ticket and the ruling on that case is fair and just to where it needs to be. That person is going to go say, well, hey, I had to go to court and I had a judge and the judge actually listened to me. He listened to what I had to say and he ruled on it. And I feel like I didn't get taken. He actually listened. Communication is a big, transparency is big, and we have to have that in our court system nowadays.
And that's awesome to hear. And with accountability and transparency, and just, we're all human. Obviously, mistakes are made, and
Yes.
sometimes things are done, and new information comes available later. Something was overlooked in the meantime. The bottom line is, especially a court like the JP, which based on, while they're not hearing a lot of the bigger felony cases and a lot of the cases that take a lot more time, the sheer volume of cases is substantial. If the court, overseen by you, was to make an error or to kind of, miss something, how would you go about handling those type of situations where you might have to do some course correction or things like that?
100% honesty and transparency. It's like you said, we are all human. We all make mistakes. Judges make mistakes. Presidents make mistakes. Healthcare workers make mistakes. Doctors make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. The biggest thing is to own up to your mistake and then work to change that outcome of that mistake. I mean, like I said before, nobody is perfect. There are always going to be mistakes made, but the more you try to cover it up and the more you don't take care of it, the bigger and bigger it gets and the more problems that it will cause.
Another issue that a lot of people have with court is the reality of it is most people are fortunate enough to never have to go to court. Usually court is, when, either you've done something that needs to be taken care of, through a judicial system, or, you have a disagreement with somebody where you're asking somebody to kind of work through those friction points with you. But the bottom line is court, other than lawyers or people that work in the court, it's not a comfortable, familiar place for the average person. Many people entering, the court, including the Justice of the Peace Court, they're going to be nervous. They're going to be unfamiliar with the process. How would you make sure that people were treated fairly, equally, and put at ease in what is, obviously, any court decision has long-term, sometimes permanent ramifications. How would you help the individuals coming in front of your court be put at ease and understand what's going on the best way possible?
Well, it's kind of like how I was getting ready for this interview. I'm not going to lie. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about the interview. Everybody gets nervous, no matter what. What I would do as a JP is communication is the biggest key. If they see that you have someone that you can talk to, communicate with, someone that's not going to give you the cold shoulder, someone that's going to make you feel at ease, that automatically takes that person's stress level down from 150%. Maybe it takes it down to 50% to where they feel more comfortable. It's just like you said, nobody wants to go to court. Nobody wants to have to sit in front of a judge and wonder what's going to happen. So I'm very good at being able to read people and help them kind of calm down to where, if I see someone, sir, ma'am, I understand you're nervous, hey, let's just go ahead and go through what you have to tell me. Tell me your story. Let me know what's going on, and we can go from there.
The another thing with you're obviously very well versed in respiratory therapy, and you served your country in Iraq. Thank you again for that for so long. But you're seeking out a position that you really don't have any real world life experience in. What to date have you done to prepare to do this job if elected, to be able to prepare to hit the ground running, to serve as a justice of the peace? And what part of your background and history do you think best serves you and has prepared you to hit the ground running and be an effective justice of the peace if you're so elected?
I think the biggest thing is my life experiences that I've had, not only in the military. I mean, I was deployed. You have to, and you were deployed also. You have to learn the rules, regulations, laws of war, and different aspects of that. Which I came back, I didn't get in trouble, and I was able to serve my country in that aspect. So, with my military experience, I think that I'd be able to hit the ground running with the information that would be given to me for as far as the civil suits and different other stuff like that. My my EMT career that I have has made me be able to understand people more when it comes to hardships and what they might be facing, whether it be their house just burned down and they have absolutely nothing, or we just loaded grandma into an ambulance because she's having a heart attack and she's being rushed off the walls because she doesn't know if she's going to make it or not. So being a firefighter and EMT has given me that compassion that I'll be able to have. Also, as a respiratory therapist, as I do my job every day, I make hard decisions. COVID, we all remember COVID. When I was as a respiratory therapist, I had to make decisions and collaborate with doctors to make huge decisions on whether family members were going to basically pass away or not because of the disease process has gotten so bad. So being able to make those hard decisions, or being in a group to be able to make those hard decisions, my respiratory therapy career has definitely got me ready for that challenge. And like I said, with my military career, being able to learn laws and rules makes me understand and know that I can do that. And with my firefighter and EMT also comes the compassion.
So sounds like you've put a lot of thought into how your experiences can segue into a position like this. And it sounds like you're well prepared to begin to understand how to do the job and to apply it. You are asking to take over for a very popular justice of the peace who's chose not to seek reelection, Judge McBroom, who's moving on, who again, like I said before, was honored at the Commissioner's Court. Very solid measure of success. If elected, as you go through your tenure and time on the bench, what would success look like to you, and how would you leave your mark and leave the court in a better place than it is? And how would you measure the effectiveness of you fulfilling that role?
I would hope that if I'm elected, that I would be able to continue with what Judge McBroom has done for the JP Court for Precinct 1. Judge McBroom, a wonderful ceremony at the Commissioner's Court. I was there for that. He was on the bench for 19 years. He touched many people's lives, no matter which way it was, through tickets, even with evictions, different other stuff like that. I want to be remembered not only as the justice of the peace that was just, simple, and fair and kind, and I mean all those other words that you can say, but I also want to be able to have a legacy of people were not scared and afraid to come in my court and come in front of me because they knew that I was going to keep justice simple, fair, and clear. And they were going to get a unbiased ruling on their case. And they knew that they had been treated fairly.
And let's talk about some of the specific things that you may have to that may be brought in front of you that you may have to make decisions on. Some of the more emotional ones, some of the more contentious ones. Justice of the Peace handles evictions, and here you have a landlord and you have a tenant, and obviously, if they're coming in front of the court where they feel they need the court to step in to determine somebody's right to stay in their home versus somebody's right to take control back of the property they own, there's obviously probably it's a very volatile situation that has led it up to the point. How would you balance to make sure that both sides understand this process? Landlords and tenants are both treated fairly in which obviously this is going to be very disappointing decision made for somebody. How would you approach that type of situation, being one of the more probably volatile ones that you're going to see consistently?
I think with something like that, especially with the landlord tenant situation, like you said, it is a very tense situation because you have someone that owns a property that they signed a contract with the tenant that said they're going to pay X amount at the beginning of the month. Obviously, like you said, if it's come to the JP court, then somewhere there's been that disconnect. Okay. As far as the process would go, I would make sure that the resources are readily available for both parties to know what the process is of how it's come to this point as having to come before the JP court. Okay. As far as making sure that both tenant and landlord feel that they have been fairly treated when it comes to it, I would make sure that all the evidence that is needed, I've looked over it, researched, and made sure that my ruling is with in alignment with the rule of law. So, I mean, it's almost like you buy a credit card, you rack it up. Guess what? You got to pay it back. I mean, you have a contract with a credit card. You have a contract with your car. If you don't pay your car gets repossessed. I mean, it's a contract that that you entered into. And it's the same way with the tenant and landlord situation. It's just that I would want to make sure that everyone has all the information that they need so they know that they were treated fairly.
So, as we get ready to wrap this up for Justice of the Peace, we hope to have you back on. We hope to hear how your campaign's going as you're out talking to voters, trying to earn their trust. But courts decisions are very final, consistent. There's appeals process and stuff like that, but most things when the court makes a decision, they're very final. And the bottom line is politics, unfortunately, gets its little sticky fingers into every little thing in today's world. How would you handle things like conflicts of interest, personal relationships, outside pressure, and things like that? Which Johnson County is an interesting dynamic right now. It has a very multi-generational core, and it has a lot of people moving here. There's a lot of moving parts. Justice of the Peace Court's going to be a lot more busy many years from now than it is today, simply for that reason. And when you start talking about outside pressure and conflicts of interest, how would you navigate those potential pitfalls to keep that court fair and balanced and things like that?
Well, I did a lot of thought on this question, and I've spoken to a lot of friends. I do have a lot of friends and family and stuff like that who I told that that I was going to run. And of course, I got the whole joke, oh, I can come and speed and not have to worry about getting in trouble. I said, no. I said, my biggest thing is that no one is above the law. That is the way I look at it. It does not matter what you have in front of your name, behind your name. It doesn't matter what title you have. If you break the law, you will be held accountable. It's the same way with me. When my wife and I were coming back from Brownwood, where my daughter and my granddaughter live, I got pulled over for doing 87 miles an hour in a 65. Police officer came up to me, said, hey, you were going so fast, license and registration, different other stuff like that. He said, where are you coming from? I said, well, we left at 8 o'clock in the morning. We went to Brownwood. We're on our way home. This was 11 o'clock at night. The officer gave me a warning, and that was his discretion to give me a warning. But I fully expected to get a speeding ticket. And that is one thing that me and my wife have talked about, and I've talked about with my friends too, and stuff like that. If I am in the wrong, I expect to get a speeding ticket from a Johnson County sheriff, from a Cleveland police officer, from a Godly police officer, Rio Vista police officer, DPS. It does not matter. Just because, if I'm elected, just because I'm a judge does not mean I get a pass from the rules. And my son and I joke around, and he says the same thing. And I'm like, son, you're 19. I said, if anything, you will have a harsher time coming in front of me than somebody else that I don't know, because you were expected to be held to a higher standard. It's the same when I was overseas. Me and my platoon sergeant, Sergeant Butch Witcher, became real good friends. And if I messed up or I did something I wasn't supposed to, he came down on me harder because he knew that I knew that it was wrong. So when it comes to outside influences, different other stuff like that, look, you break the law, you're going to be held accountable for it. That's all there is to it. And it doesn't matter with your relationship, that what they have with my family. It doesn't matter. The law is written and the law is enforced. And if you break it, there is certain penalties and you will have to face those penalties.
Well, Mr. Appleby, we want to thank you for joining us today and taking time to clearly explain how the Justice of the Peace Court in Johnson County Precinct 1 functions and how its authority is exercised. We hope that this conversation has helped our listeners better understand that role and the limits of that office and the responsibility that comes with making the decisions that directly affect people's housings, daily lives, and all the stuff that comes in front of the Justice of the Peace. We hope our listeners from today's discussion that they grasp the day-to-day duties of the Justice of the Peace better, how discretion can be applied consistently and within the law, the importance of fairness, clarity, and professionalism in the courtroom, and the role transparency plays in maintaining public trust and accountability. For voters listening, the intent of this episode was to provide you insight into how you would approach this job, Mr. Appleburry, how you would approach this job if entrusted with it, and how you view the responsibility of serving as one of the most accessible judicial officers in the county. Before we close, we want you to share with our audience the best way to learn more about you, how to reach you in your campaign, whether it's website or Facebook, however you want them to contact you. Social media platform, and please talk directly to the people that you're asking to earn their trust and asking for them to trust you with overseeing the Justice of the Peace Court.
Well, my name is Andrew Appleburry, and I am running for Justice of the Peace of Precinct 1. I do have a Facebook page. You can find me on that Facebook page. My phone number is on there. My email is also on there. And I want to thank Greg for letting me come out and speak here today. I just want to get my name out there and let people know that Judge McBroom has done a wonderful job. I am very glad that he is stepping down and retiring in order to enjoy the rest of his time with his family, his friends, and he deserves it. He really does. He's been in the county working as a JP for 19 years. And I just want everyone to know that I will be accessible. I will be a Justice of the Peace that you are able to walk up to in front of Walmart, able to come up to at a restaurant when I'm eating with my family. It does not matter. I want to be that Justice of the Peace that you can speak to. I just want everyone to know that I promise that I will keep justice simple, fair, and clear, and I will rule with unbiased and fair judgments to anyone that comes to my court. Thank you very much for watching.
Well, Mr. Appleburry, we appreciate you coming on, and we really wish you luck during the campaign process. We'd love to have you back on as we get closer to early voting. You got a bunch in your field. There's a chance there could be a runoff for sure.
Yes.
So you might be in this for a little longer than you expect.
Yes, sir.
It seems like in Texas we never get out of election cycles. November, there's a November election, March primaries, a May election, then into runoffs. It seems like we're always in an election cycle of somewhat. But we wish you luck. We want to thank you and for trusting us with letting you get your story out, and good luck.
Thank you very much, sir. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk with you and give my insight for what the Justice of the Peace is and what I'll be able to do for the community and the residents of Precinct 1.
Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
A-Post floors and granite countertops are your source for all things granite, marble, quartz, soapstone, travertine, hardwoods, and more. A-Post Floors and Granite Countertops is a multiple-year winner of the Cleveland Times Review Best of the Best, as well as their prestigious Reader's Choice Award. A-Post Floors and Granite Countertops follows a tradition of A-Post family of businesses founded by Fernando Rodriguez, where quality, customer service, and a commitment to improving the community come together. A-Post Floors and Granite Countertops is located at 4740 East Highway 67 in Alvarado. A-Post Floors and Granite Countertops offers design, fabrication, and installation for both residential and commercial installations. They can be reached via phone at 817-645-0460. Again, that is 817-645-0460. A-Post Floors and Granite Countertops, your source for all things granite, marble, quartz, soapstone, travertine hardwoods, and more. Check them out.